This show is brought to you by PivX Private Instant Verified Transactions. With its groundbreaking zero-coin staking and masternodes, PivX is the top privacy currency. Feel free to trade some on Binance or Bittrex, and for more information, go to www.pivx.org. Hello and welcome to ITK Crypto, part of SmartReach. All right, we have got loads of great content coming your way, and a great one today as well, because we are with Giaki from Lux. I'm Tom White. Cryptosi is with me as well. But first of all, Giaki, how are you? Great to have you on.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm feeling great today.
Good. Well, I tell you what, Cryptosi and I were just talking about, we've got the kind of rundown to the podcast here. And the original date here says 4th of July, 2019.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah,
at this stage, we are now early October. And so we have been chasing you for a long time. We are delighted that we finally got you on.
I'm very happy to be here too. I'm very happy we made it eventually.
Yeah, exactly. Cryptosi, everything going well with you?
Yeah. I've known Giaki for a little while now. Super talented guy. So hopefully he doesn't get too technical and baffle people, but I'm really expecting a very, very insightful podcast today.
All right, well, let's get straight into it. Yeah.
No
he says no pressure, Giaki. He's clearly put a lot of pressure on you. There.
Yeah, extremely.
Despite what he says.
Raising the expectations a lot.
So tell us a bit more about yourself, who you are and what your working background was before getting into crypto.
So, I got into development 7 years ago. So I remember my first repo on GitHub was in 2012. And I mainly got into it through Android and Android development. I remember I usually ended up developing kernels back in the day. And before that, I also did some Android app development, but mostly it was kernels. So yeah, that was my first bite at C, and then eventually C++. And I'm 18 now, so I was a small kid, but I must say I really, really did enjoy Android development, Android OS, and everything Android had to offer. Despite having some closed source part, it is an open source OS at the end of the day, and you can really do a lot of stuff on it. Because I also remember I joined my first team for Android development, Optima team. I must say I really have to shout them out. I had a lot of learning with them. I remember I still talk with a lot of members there, and thinking I've known them for like 7 years, it makes me think a lot about how I've been transitioning between OSs, platforms, development, but still keeping an eye on where it came from.
All right, so that now takes us into Lux. Tell us more about Lux, what it is.
Well, Lux was born as enterprise services of blockchain, but since this is a very new sector for blockchain development, there's been a lot to know and to do before you can actually start offering services to enterprises using blockchain. But on the technical side, we are a BTC fork, so Bitcoin code base, with retrofitted Ethereum smart contracts built on top as a second layer, with proof of stake, which was a very new feature back in the day. Now it is kind of the standard, but before it was very new, and masternodes on top. So yes, we are a bit of a blend of many features which are very appealing nowadays to cryptocurrency experts and people who think and want to know more about blockchain. And that's mainly our position right now, also technically speaking.
Well, look, Lux has built smart contracts. Will that lead to scaling problems like Ether's encountered so far? And if so, how do you plan to deal with them?
Yeah, definitely we're going to have to think about a solution for Ethereum smart contracts. That's a problem, and we already seen this happen in Ethereum. And Ethereum has had a lot of issues with this. I remember listening to the last DEF CON. Ethereum has this DEF CON they have every year or so. And I remember them talking about Plasma development. And Plasma, which should be this big solution for scaling, and which is a first layer solution, still hasn't come out. And this isn't very promising, unfortunately. Everybody isn't happy. Nobody's happy about this, but unfortunately, this is the current status. It's not easy to find a solution to such a deep problem. This is, I think, one of the keys to cryptocurrency evolution and eventual cryptocurrency adoption, because it is a very important and key point to scaling Ethereum and successfully also scaling different forks. We're using the Quantum engine, which is an FVM which uses Bitcoin code opcodes to run the smart contracts. But we also still use Solidity as a programming language. So we are very similar to Ethereum in this part. One thing which I am very happy about is the fact that we have masternodes, because notarized nodes can have a very big part in consensus once a high level of resources is needed. Because eventually what I see happening in a few years' time is going to be massive usage of smart contracts on basically any chain, and subsequent clogging up of resources for normal nodes. But if your masternode is producing income, you are incentivized to buying better hardware and subsequently giving a better service and helping the network run. So if you think about it, masternodes and notarized nodes are something that also Ethereum devs have been considering. And last time I checked, wasn't yet under talks, but could potentially be another solution. But yeah, mainly first layer scaling is going to be the big issue and the next big thing. As of now, we can scale Ethereum with second layer solutions and dApps, payment channels. But as everything, second layer solutions are never a real solution, or that's my opinion on them, honestly. I could get technical here and describe everything I think is wrong with giving all the power to second layer solution. But to be honest, I think it's a very complicated argument. I don't really think it's good to talk about it now here.
No, that's fair enough. Being a crypto developer, it's I'd imagine has plenty of difficulties. Can you tell the listeners the best and worst things about being a crypto dev?
So when I first got involved into cryptocurrencies, I didn't take this seriously until a year after developing. So I first got into it because I knew the code already, and I was very interested in decentralization and the idea of removing any third party in the transfer of value, in the action of transferring value. So I got into it not really so seriously, not considering this as a full-time occupation. And I must say, I slowly moved into a different mindset and eventually started considering this as a very serious thing. And my first year as crypto developer was good. I enjoyed it. I didn't really have many responsibilities, and that's a thing which I have now come to slowly forget, because I am currently head of a very big cryptocurrency project, very ambitious cryptocurrency project, and so responsibilities have come. Talking about pluses, minuses, being a cryptocurrency developer has a big minus, and that is that your code is always open source and is always open to review from a third party. So basically, you're always working with an audience in front of you. even if you don't see them, it's like you have 50 people in the room when you're typing. And I've known people which have told me that this can cause some level of, I wouldn't say make it more difficult, but it can definitely sort of break your privacy when you're coding. Because I personally tend to write a lot of, I would say, it very strange stuff, not very well documented, and sort of be cryptic, but that's just my way of thinking about things. And I've known people who have been sort of talked about this, and everybody's watching basically. It's not always the best. But I think a big plus is peer review. Being a cryptocurrency developer means you always have somebody watching over you, and you always have somebody you can simply ask help, and if they're the right person, they'll easily help you, and you can work a lot better like that. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Everybody's looking, but everybody can help, and that's not.
So that all makes sense. It's quite fascinating to hear that, actually.
That's a mechanic I wasn't used to, because as much as I enjoy decentralized development, when I was writing kernels, nobody really went through the whole source code, because in the end, you're not talking about money. You're just talking about a driver for your phone, basically. That's what kernels are for Android phones. So it was a shift in logic behind your decisions and behind what you do. And I remember that. I remember when it really happened was after I committed some changes. Must have been 9 months ago. I had this commit, and it was really, really bad. I mean, it was flooded with different stuff. And I remember 3 or 4 people coming at me and telling me, "Look, this is completely wrong." And I mean, I knew that a lot of stuff I had to relook at, but having people point out your errors at you, it helps, because you know that you still got somebody else which looks over your work, and everybody's going to have a look, and everybody's going to help. And that's really decentralized. The whole thing, responsibility and getting a helping hand, it works both ways.
Oh, it makes sense. Cryptos, that's kind of fascinating to hear the way Giaki explains that, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And it's I've known Giaki for a little while now, and he has taken on quite a lead role within Lux, and it has changed him. He did used to be a little bit less what's the word? Perhaps gentle with other developers who had made mistakes, and now he seems to be now he does seem to be a little bit more forgiving when he does see errors in code. So yeah, it's interesting to hear from him how he feels that he's constantly being watched. And there is a group, which is actually where I met Giaki, a group of developers in a special Discord group, and it does get quite competitive. There are times when they will pick apart each other's code. Yeah, and it's I'm in my own way, I'm kind of glad that I'm not a developer myself, because sometimes it can get quite brutal. Sometimes it can get pretty brutal. One thing I did want to ask, actually, though, Giaki, going back on your talking about Ethereum and their scaling solutions, we had EtherGem on, and they're a Ethereum fork. And we spoke to them about it, and they were still quite confident about sharding actually coming to the Ethereum network. Do you think sharding is something that is possible? And do you think Ethereum could realistically go down the masternodes route? Because I would personally love that if they did. But sharding, first of all, what's your take on it?
Well, first of all, sharding. Yes, controversial topic, definitely. But considering the options we have now, it is very valid. And I must say, I'm not that much of a supporter, but knowing the difficulties and knowing how impossible the task would be without sharding, I'm positive about sharding. I'm positive that Ethereum will be able to work with sharding and work much better than how it works now. But not just because we are talking about the technical development of sharding. I was also considering the side effects, let's call it, on sharding. Once you have a sharded chain, you have a very good ecosystem. And Ethereum is all about ecosystem. If you can store your chain in that much less data, you can potentially let full nodes, because we're talking about full nodes with sharding, run almost anywhere. And that's the key to decentralization. If you have a cryptocurrency which is that big and lets you run a node anywhere, you have a very decentralized network, and people will flock to that because it is a very unique thing. About masternodes and Ethereum. So I remember this talk coming out 3 years ago or 2 years ago when Ethereum was announcing it would be researching proof of stake and the whole anti proof of work movement and everything else. I remember I think somebody from the Ethereum team dropping a message on Slack talking about notarizing nodes. Well, and notarized nodes are essentially masternodes. I think it's an interesting solution. I do think it needs to be changed a lot, though, because we have also seen in the current masternode ecosystem, masternodes don't really do much. And it's a pity because the possibilities with notarized nodes are quite a lot, if not say infinite, because once you have a node which has a proven stake in the network, you can really move it and you can really use it more than your normal node. And building on top of masternodes would be a very interesting thing to do, but also a very complex thing to do. We at Lux are looking at different possibilities of running different dApps on masternodes. We have recently worked on a decentralized file storage, which will be using masternodes only for storing your data encrypted on the chain. And that was something I was very excited about, and I'm very excited to release it as soon as possible. Won't be saying any dates. And that's definitely one of the main options you have when running masternodes. But what I really see right now is the top masternode coin, which is Dash, having issues finding a purpose for the masternodes. So yes, it's going to be very interesting how it evolves. I still think Ethereum should consider notarized nodes. If sharding and plasma and all the first layer scaling layer solutions have some hiccups, moving everything to a notarized node network could be a potential solution just for the time being.
I know you've mentioned a little bit of this, Giaki, but what's on the horizon for Lux, let's say in the next 12 months?
Well, okay, so we are currently beta testing our decentralized exchange, which is called LuxGate, and it's going to be an atomic swap only, this fully decentralized exchange. No KYC, no AML, KML, whatever your friendly economic policy is going to be. We don't have any of that. We won't ask you for your personal data. We won't pull a crypto bridge on you and ask you for your personal data when you still have funds on our account and lock you out of your funds. Not throwing any shade at crypto bridge. I know they do that because they have to, but still, we will retain full decentralization on the network, and all your trades won't have any third party involved in any part of it. Something similar to what BlockDX has done. Shout out BlockDX for their awesome project. I must say, I really do enjoy trading on the exchange, and also something similar to what BISC does, but on a more decentralized level. Because as of now, both exchanges or decentralized exchanges maintain their order books in a semi-centralized manner. While we currently have implemented a smart contract for storing orders, this makes it 100% decentralized. There's no relying on any centralized server. And the only thing we are really going to offer is going to be a web interface for it, which is something nice to have, but not even that much necessary if you want to have a trade without opening a web interface.
So loads of exciting things coming up then, Giaki. Exciting times certainly for Lux. We want to get your thoughts on Facebook's upcoming Libra offering.
This podcast has been brought to you by Rhubarb Media. Rhubarb Media are the branding specialists behind successful crypto projects such as PivX, Vendible, and Libertaria. The Rhubarb style is both loved and respected the world over. So if you want your project to appeal to techies and everyday users alike, give Rhubarb Media a try. You cannot possibly be disappointed. Link is in the description.
Okay, and this is going to be an interesting question. So yes, Facebook had this crazy moment when it decided to launch the new cryptocurrency. I myself was very surprised, but I know a lot of people which were very surprised too, because what really they launched was their own network, because Facebook is always going to have a majority stake in that network, and you can't even call it decentralized at this point, to be honest. When you're electing, I think in this case, the Libra consensus is maintained by a certain number of nodes. When you're electing these nodes and the majority is owned by the same entity, you're not really electing anything. And this is probably going to be true for the first 5 to 10 years you have this coin, until distribution doesn't get so good that everybody has a say in this voting. You will have a majority of control in the hands of a single entity. And this basically sums up for me, because if you make a cryptocurrency and you don't make it decentralized, you're not making a cryptocurrency. And as much as I can respect the work developers have put into Libra, because code-wise, I am impressed. It is a very nice project. As much as I can respect it, there's too much of an economic incentive by Facebook into it. So their stake into it, the project, is far too big to make it a worthy project for cryptocurrency. It is a great, centralized currency, e-currency. It probably is going to be a very good payment processor, but it's not a cryptocurrency.
It's certainly got everyone talking, as everyone's got an opinion on it. And the other thing that we've been talking about, certainly Cryptosi and I have been talking about, we want to ask your thoughts. What do you think is the biggest factor standing in the way of crypto mass adoption?
Okay, well, crypto mass adoption is another very hot theme right now. Obviously, I just usually, when I think about these big problems, I try to make them as small as possible. So I just think about my mother and how she goes to the grocery store and pays with a credit card. And I was thinking, well, how could she pay with cryptocurrency? I mean, as of now, we do have the tools to enable mobile payment. So she could simply flip out her smartphone, take out her Bitcoin wallet, pay for the groceries, and go home. But once you think about it, Bitcoin is quite slow. And we've seen this a lot of times. I think we all here have transacted something with Bitcoin. And we all know the wait times and, the block times, the fees, which are never low enough. And generally, the user experience when trying to pay with Bitcoin, it's not one of the best. But it does work, and it is very decentralized. So it is a very good step forward. Now, I'm not a fan of second layer solutions for this. So I'm not a fan of the Lightning Network. I'm not a fan of how these hubs will retain control over the majority of nodes, and how supposedly these nodes should go away eventually and keep it decentralized. I am personally, I could go technical here, but I don't think we should really go technical. I just prefer keeping it first layer. What I really do think is going to help mass adoption of cryptocurrencies is Schnorr signatures. Now, I don't know if you know about Schnorr signatures. I know that I think Cryptosi is a big fan of BSV or BCH, Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. Which are the two?
Bitcoin Cash.
Oh yeah, I know you're a big fan of Bitcoin Cash, and they did recently enable Schnorr signatures. I think. Yes, they must have done it.
Yeah.
Either them or BSV. Well, anyways, yes, they recently did, and what Schnorr signatures are, well, per se, they're not really such an innovation. They are very small proof-sized transactions, which can actually contain a very big number of signatures. But what they can enable is Taproot. Now, I don't know if you are if you know about Taproot, but basically it was released. It was a proposal released, I think, almost a year ago by Will, which is the main blockstream developer. And Taproot is something which we should be able to use with Schnorr eventually, and is something which can permit your local store to transact a lot of bitcoins on the mainnet for an extremely low fee, simply by compressing inputs and outputs each time you sign them, and making a chain of even 1,000 payments, and have them just come up as 65 bytes or 64 bytes if you add compressed keys on the main network. So this means that you can have 50 payments, one chained after the other, and just a single settlement on the main network. Essentially meaning that with one transaction, you're actually having 50 transactions, and those 50 transactions can easily become 2,000, can become 5,000. That's a big step forward. And that's really what I think is going to be mass adoption. Once we have Schnorr and we have Taproot, and we have PBSTs, which are partially signed transactions, which are another thing which could really help mass adoption, I think we have a very good performance in the layer one. And the layer one is the only thing we should be really looking at right now.
Yeah, Cryptosi, I know Giaki just got you kind of involved in that there. That was, that was a really in-depth answer, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think this is where I get laughed out of the devs group that we're in. It's when when we do speak about mass adoption, and I come from the non coding background, so I would say it's user interfaces and user experience that is probably the main thing with it. I won't say it to Giaki because I know it insults him. He does get annoyed when I say that. And last time I said it in the devs Discord, I was kind of shooed away quickly. But it is interesting, actually. Yeah, it is actually interesting to hear him say about Schnorr signatures being so important, and it will make I guess it will make Bitcoin usable again, because it has kind of moved into that category where a lot of people are now seeing it as a store of value, as opposed to something that you can use for payments.
Yeah, that's the main focus for me, because as much as I know the end user likes his GUIs and he likes his UX, I think that GUIs and UX, let's leave them to the GUI guys. Blockchain developers, we're not GUI guys. I'm sorry. I respect all GUI people out there. I know you like your JavaScript Electron. I know you like that. I'm just not like that. I'm sorry. I think about the code as in the speed of transactions. That's what you really want to think about. You really want to make Bitcoin work again. And how do you do that while keeping it decentralized? And Schnorr with Taproot, with PBSTs, that's something I am extremely excited about.
Well, Cryptosi, that's you clearly put in your place.
Do you see how they treat me, Tom? Do you see what I mean? It's a tough life.
Don't worry, it's exactly the same outside of this chat as well, Giaki. Don't worry. Giaki, got one final question for you, and it may well be the toughest. If you can, let's see if you can give a brief answer to this one. All right, 'cause it's a tough one. If you were to go all in on any project, right, but it can't be Lux and it can't be Bitcoin, what would you go all in on?
That's a really tough one, though. That's a very tough question. Okay, so all in on a single project.
You can say PivX.
I won't say PivX. I'm sorry, as much as I do respect PivX, I won't say that. We all know why. I won't say it, but we all know why. Now, that's a really tough. That's a really tough question.
It doesn't mean that we're going to let you not answer it. Look, Giaki.
Yeah, I know. You really took out the Bitcoin maximalist in me right now. You really took it out. Now, a project I was very excited about, but no. I'm just trying to find a project I have nothing to say against it, but I have a lot of stuff to say against a lot of projects. So many. I'm feeling like a bad person right now, thinking about all the bad things I could say about so many good projects. God. Well, you know what? I think that I gotta give it to a project I have always been very fond of, and in my very, let's say, short mining career, it was my main mining operation. I gotta give it to Monero.
Okay, go on. Give us a little reason as to why.
Okay, well, first of all, I must say I appreciate their constant commitment to trying to keep an algorithm ASIC and FPGA free, which is impossible, as we all know, but they like to be, imaginative. And so every time they fork and they change the algo, and then the FPGA and the ASICs come out and they fork again, they're very committed to it. I mean, it's like bashing your head against a wall, but you committed at bashing that head against the wall. Now, I'm not trying to be too ironic here. I'm just saying, I must say, they are keeping an eye out for decentralization in mining. And that's a very good thing, in my opinion. As much as I sound ironic about it, I must say they are really doing a good job. I recently forked RandomX. I'm working on a new version of RandomX, which I'm going to be calling RandomX 2, which is going to come to Lux eventually. And I like the design concept of RandomX, and Monero is going to be forking to RandomX quite soon too. So yeah, shout out Monero for the decentralization in mining. But most of all is privacy. Privacy is very important nowadays, and Bitcoin has retained none since the early days when it was considered super anonymous. We have ZKP dApps on Ethereum, which cost a lot and probably won't be as performant as they need to be for enabling private transactions for everybody. And talking about ZeroCoin, it's better we don't really touch the subject, because I mean, we've had so many ZeroCoin exploits in the last 2 months or 2 years. Not a really fan of ZeroCoin, unfortunately. As much as the mathematics behind it are very solid, there's always something which goes wrong. That leaves me with ring transactions and bulletproofs, which is something Monero has been using since a while now. And I must say, I have seen a few papers on Sybil attacks for Monero, where the signatures in the transaction, in the signatures in the signing ring could collude. And yes, it's a vector, and yes, it can remove your privacy from your privacy coin. but it's extremely complex to do and requires an insane amount of funds to pull off. So again, I think that the best privacy coin as of now, and probably the only project I would go all in except for Bitcoin and Lux right now, is Monero.
Giaki, that was an excellent answer, and this has been an excellent interview. We really, really appreciate it, Tim. As I said, we've been chasing you for a long time. We've finally got you, and that is why. So thank you very much indeed. Just let the listeners know where they can find a little bit more about yourself and Lux.
Well, I'm Giacomo, Giaki3003. You know me. You can also pronounce my name Giaki, as Cryptosi says, 3003. And Lux, we have a website at LuxCore.io, and you can find our GitHub as Lux, all caps, hyphen, and core. And that's basically it. You will find a lot of information on our website, and you will find our GitHub to be very, very interesting if you're a developer. Last of all, we also have an upcoming new code base, which I would like to talk about a little. We have an upcoming new code base, which is going to be forked from the latest Quantum 0.18, which is the latest Bitcoin upstream. And we are also looking at C and language agnostic smart contracts. So yes, definitely a lot going on. You should check out GitHub and our website.
We will. Giaki, thank you very much indeed. Great to have you on.
Thank you very much.
This podcast was brought to you by Meros Cryptocurrency. Meros is a cryptocurrency payment system that does what cryptocurrency originally intended to do. Be a practical and secure form of direct payment. Meros utilizes the best of current technology in a powerful new way and introduces a groundbreaking consensus mechanism called merit caching. This enables Meros to be both feeless and instant while maintaining the same level of integrity of traditional networks like Bitcoin. To find out how you can participate in the future of crypto payments, go to meroscrypto.io now.